One of the things you do is you've taken the old military-industrial complex, and Eisenhower's military-industrial complex, and we still talk about it that way, and you've kind of expanded it. So if you could just talk a little about the military-industrial complex now. I mean, you talk about the donut industrial. I mean, tell us a little about the many directions that what we used to call the military-industrial complex has gone.
Well, I mean, the old Eisenhower model of the military-industrial complex still exists. Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, I mean, they're still major players, the largest in it. And big corporations like General Motors were always big players in the Eisenhower variant. And they still exist in today's military-industrial complex. But now there's something that I call the military-corporate complex, which includes all those older players, the big arms dealers, massive corporations, oil companies. And then these newer civilian companies that you wouldn't think immediately are involved in the military. Like Apple Computer or Starbucks or like you say, the donut companies like Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts on the military payroll.
What you've done is to lay out the way in which the military has moved into our lives and the way in which we largely don't see that. So, I was thinking, for instance, of toys. I was thinking of tell us about the Super Soaker gun, because, your kid runs, it is a water gun, right? But what's the link? What link could there be to the Pentagon with the Super Soaker toy gun? Who puts out? Hasbro, maybe?
Yeah, it's a Hasbro toy, and actually, the Hasbro and the military have had a close relationship for a long time. The military shares information and specs on equipment and soldiers' body armor, that type of thing, with Hasbro, so that they can make the most realistic toys possible. But it's a two-way street, because the military took a look at Hasbro's Super Soaker and said that it held promise as a model for new weapons, actual weapons, quick loading weapon system. So used it as a template. The military develops simulators to train their soldiers, and these they resemble advanced video games, but they strike deals with video game companies to turn these simulators into commercial games. But it goes the other way. There's popular commercial games that are produced by civilian firms that are then retrofitted, changed into military simulators. The Army has a MySpace page, the Marine Corps too, the Air Force had one for a time. The military saw this as just another method to get in front of the eyes of young people. So social networking is one of the big ways they're going about it. Video games, they have websites that they look like civilian sites. They're modeled after, some are geared towards parents, some are geared towards the kids, but they give the impression that it's for help in career placement, what to do when high school's done, and they don't articulate it except in the fine print hidden on these sites that they're military sites, but they recommend that kids take the Armed Forces aptitude test, but don't give them information on exactly what that is.
I mean, wouldn't you say that we look largely, to a large extent, like a pretty unmilitarized society if you just walk around, if you just look in your daily life? And yet, your book shows that almost everywhere you turn, in your house, with your products, you're somehow linked. You're within less than 6 degrees, to take the old game of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon game. You're within 6 degrees of the Pentagon. Actually, you're usually within 1 or 2 degrees, right?
That's right. Yeah. Basically, every kitchen cupboard or refrigerator in America has a full component of products that are, say, created by manufactured by companies that support the Pentagon, that are its biggest suppliers.
One of the things that's fascinated me about your book is that you also have done a lot of work in ways in which, in a government, the Bush administration, in which so many things weren't being attended to, the Pentagon was attending. It was doing almost the only blue skies work around.
That's right. And DARPA is I mean, it's the Pentagon Blue Skies research outfit. It does all the most advanced work in the government, and it's tough to find anywhere in the government where there's that type of money for this type of research and thinking. Now, if you can dream it up, there's a good chance that the DARPA will at least take a shot at it. So.
And they're supporting scientists, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
To do absolutely free thinking as long as what?
Well, I mean, all of these projects ultimately, they're to further the Pentagon's war-making capacity. So even the most benign projects, things that look like they have medical or public health uses, I mean, it's always with the caveat that this has to support the war-making function of the government.
And a lot of the work isn't kind of either benign or even in sound. I mean, it's wild sounding.
Oh yeah.
I mean, give us some examples, for instance.
Well, DARPA has invested a lot of money in recent years in what they call MEMS. They're micro electromechanical systems. These are extremely small, basically cyborg insects, where they've funneled a lot of money. They figure out ways to implant a computer chip into a moth during its early stages of development, a larval stage, and they're getting to the point where they can then control this moth and have onboard computer systems in a living organism, and you can fly it wherever, in windows.
So watch out for the moth over your shoulder.
That's right.
I'll tell you another thing that interested me that you wrote about, which was a version of this same thing, again, which is that in a government where thinking ahead has not been exactly a major attribute, the military is planning for wars and weaponry of 2030, 2040, 2050, right?
That's right. They're planning the large hardware, the big weapon systems for all the way down the road, advanced bombers, teleoperated or autonomous vehicles. They'd be tanks or armored personnel carriers, that type of thing that drive on their own. And they're working on these advanced vehicles for the future, and a lot of projects for urban warfare. I was at a conference in the fall of 2007 where some of the military's brightest minds in urban warfare came out. People from the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab and from DARPA, and they said that they're planning for 100 years of urban warfare to come. So they're developing the weapon systems for that. Things like tiny drones that will right now you see in Iraq these bigger UAVs. Some of them are unmanned aerial vehicles that are armed and carry out targeted assassination missions, things like that. But they're developing extremely small devices like that will swarm through an urban environment. They're designed to come through the windows, the ventilation shafts, and blanket a whole building to give the military an idea of who's inside, what they're up to. Very invasive stuff. It's all under development right now.
And so one of the things about the complex is it's not only since Eisenhower's day moved out into our world, but it's doing its own planning to be around for a long time. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. It's it sees its warfare is its business, so it's it's planning for it for the foreseeable future.